Now on BBC One, Raghi Omar explores Islam in today's Britain. A Muslim in the family.
All I knew about Islam was that it was a religion that was spread by the sword, that it treated women like second-class citizens.
The first time I ever saw Islam was the Suez Crisis, when I saw everybody praying to the sun at the end of the evening.
How much do most people in Britain know about Islam? Although there are 1.6 million British Muslims, outside the curry house, the cab rank and the corner shop, Islam used to be barely visible.
If you was asked me what a Muslim was, I wouldn't have a clue. I'd have said, oh, an Asian guy. It's more, it seemed more like a country rather than a way of life.
September the 11th changed all that. Many Muslims suddenly felt under scrutiny, tarred with the same broad brush of ignorance and fear. Hardly the easiest climate for a non-Muslim to embrace the faith, and yet a steady stream of people has been doing just that. This film's about 4 of them.
One day, I just woke up and said, oh, what happens if God stops calling me? And then I die with nothing in my heart.
I didn't want to be a Muslim, it came to me. It's the greatest gift anybody's ever given me.
I haven't told my family yet that I'm wearing the full veil, because I know it will upset them.
My mother's reaction was to start to go to church. So I said, that's fantastic. Already Islam is having a positive effect on our lives.
Islam was a distant religion abroad, wasn't it, in the Middle East? But now it's here, isn't it? It's in our house now.
It's Islamic Awareness Week at Bristol University, and a mixture of the faithful and the curious is gathering to hear a talk by the star turn, former Fleet Street reporter Yvonne Ridley.
Brothers, sisters and friends, salam alaikum.
3 years ago, she would have struggled to find anything to say to a group like this. But then, as far as she's concerned, she was a very different person back then.
The Yvonne Ridley before 9/11 has been compared to Patsy Stone out of Absolutely Fabulous. I've been married 3 times. I've got an 11-year-old daughter. And I suppose, even by journalistic standards, it's quite a disastrous life.
In 2001, just as the so-called war on terror was getting underway, the Sunday Express reporter put on a burqa and crossed into Afghanistan to report on life under the Taliban.
Yvonne was an inexperienced foreign correspondent. More experienced foreign correspondents had also thought of doing that. People on the Sunday Telegraph, people on the Times, their papers had all stopped them. They'd said, no, you're very likely to get picked up.
I think she was foolish because she's a single mother, and she plunged herself into a situation which could have had a terrible, terrible ending.
Nobody would ask if any high-profile male war correspondents, no one would probe into their private lives, saying, what on earth did she think she was doing, going in there when she's got a child? This would never be asked of John Simpson.
You become invisible directly you put it on. No one even glances at women here.
The big difference between John Simpson and Yvonne Ridley was that she got caught. She was held on spying charges and fully expected to be stoned. But instead of ending her life, her experiences in that Afghan cell were to change her life forever.
For 6 days I had avoided talking about religion. And there I was, confronted with a cleric. And I looked at him and I just thought, oh no, it's the God Squad.
He asked me what religion I was. And I said, I'm a Protestant, the Church of England. And he smiled and he said, and what do you think about Islam? Oh, I said, it's wonderful. I said, it's absolutely amazing.
And he smiled again and he said, so, you would like to convert? And I thought, if I say yes, he will accuse me of being a very fickle, insincere woman. If I say no, he will accuse me of insulting Islam. Either way, I'll be hauled off and stoned.
And I thought about it, and I looked at him and said, you know, thank you very much for your kind offer, but I can't possibly make such a life-changing decision while I'm in prison. However, if you let me go, I will read the Quran and I will study Islam when I return to London. You know, that is my promise.
4 days later, despite the fact that the coalition had started bombing Kabul, the Taliban took Yvonne to the Pakistan border and released her unharmed.
I'm fine. I'm fine. It's good to be here. Thank you. After all the fuss died down, I started reflecting on the visit that I'd had from the cleric.
And I thought, well, they've kept their word and now I should keep mine. And I started to read the Quran.
And I went through all the women's issues because I had to find out what is in this book that promotes the subjugation and oppression of women. And there's nothing in there. Far from saying women should be oppressed, it says quite clearly that women are equal in spirituality, worth and education. And furthermore, we're praised for our child-rearing and childbirth capabilities.
So in my book, that means that women are probably the deluxe model of the human being. Nobody's smiling over here, right?
I then looked at property and inheritance laws, things that have just come into the gift of Western women in the last 100 years. And, you know, it's all there. It's like a Magna Carta for women. I wanted to go running back to Afghanistan and say to my captors, hey guys, what have you been reading? You know, because did you know? And I remember complaining about it once, and this Muslim woman said, Yvonne, Islam is perfect. Unfortunately, the people who practice it aren't. And I thought, yes, she's right.
Anyway, I'm very, very happy to tell you that I did take my Shahada on June the 30th last year. And I have now joined what I consider to be the biggest family in the world. Just makes me so proud to stand before you today and say I am a Muslim. Thank you.
Whatever her feelings for her new family, Yvonne still had to square her conversion with the old one. And when it came to breaking the news to her mum, the woman who'd braved 10 days with the Taliban suddenly lost her nerve.
Did what many converts choose to do, and that is not tell their parents until afterwards.
Hello! Hi!
I sent mother an email, and her immediate reaction was to start to go to church. And much to her annoyance, I said, that's fantastic, you know, already Islam is having a positive effect on our lives.
I've got some sandwiches made.
No ham sandwiches?
No. I've been trying to think, what can I make without bacon? I wasn't happy. I didn't like it, you know.
But do you not think it's because you've got some sort of irrational prejudices against Islam, because basically you don't really understand it?
Well, no, I think it's just the culture, and maybe if you'd been born over there it might be different. But to change...
But over where?
In the middle of the stream.
Islam, you know, transcends nationalities, borders, countries, cultures. It transcends everything. And here we go.
Here we go. You see, I'm being educated now.
Well, it's so frustrating because I know that you are a spiritual person, and I just think you could be so much happier.
Well, I wouldn't, because I wouldn't understand it like you do, you see.
Islam has helped me rethink all my relationships, especially with my daughter.
My baby, look, you!
I look back and see a bit of a lost soul, a pleasure-seeking person that never quite found it. But I really feel as though I know where I'm going now.
The thing I'm pleased about is that she stopped drinking, and if Islam have done that for her, well, it can't be too bad.
A water, please. Oh my God! With no ice. Yes.
Although Yvonne Ridley was willing to put on a veil as an undercover journalist, as a practicing Muslim, she's so far stopped short of doing so. She firmly accepts the faith in her heart, but practicing it with her head may take a little longer. For Shanaz Malik, the journey from white slough teenage mum to burqa-wearing Muslim wife has taken 6 years. Even now, there's still one important step to go.
I haven't told my family yet that I'm wearing the full veil because I know it will upset them. They watch the media. They have a lot of preconceived ideas about Muslims, and so I have to tread carefully and explain that it's still me under here.
Alicia, what are they doing?
Reading a mass.
Reading a mass. What's the old man doing?
It shouldn't matter what I wear on the outside. You know, it shouldn't have an impact on how I am with them.
Shanaz converted the day she married her Asian boyfriend Nasir, a childhood sweetheart she'd met at school. At that stage, he was Muslim in little more than name. But as with a lot of new Muslims, Shanaz's conversion made him re-evaluate his own faith, or lack of it.
How's it going now, lad?
My partner wasn't religious at all. He thought that he'd been brought up as a Muslim, and now he's realising that he was brought up as a Pakistani. And he's now learning the true Islam without all the cultural things included. And so it's kind of brought him on that path as well to find out the true Islam.
She's changed me, changed my life around. She has. I've no choice. No choice. From a normal Western boy to a newborn Muslim, I'd say. And it's all down to my wife.
Having found his faith, Naz decided at the end of last year to make an Umrah pilgrimage to Mecca. But when he came back in January, he found that Shanaz had been on a spiritual journey of her own.
The more and more I had learned about Islam, I realised that I really should be wearing the veil. So I took the chance when my husband went to Umrah to put the veil on, because when he came back, he had that Islamic knowledge and he knew that it was the right thing to do, and it's still here. So I really enjoy, I love wearing it. I know that I'm doing the right thing, and it's a progression in my faith, and it did feel wonderful being able to walk out and know that I've got that little bit closer to being the person that I want to be.
It was a shock. It was. Ninjas, we call them. But it's her own doing. It's what she feels comfortable in. And I don't mind.
The Quran says that we should dress modestly, and it's in our benefit to cover our beauty from strangers. I can wear what I want, you know, in the privacy of my own home. I can dress as I please. It's when I'm in front of men that are not my blood relatives and strangers outside. And amongst the sisters, when you're wearing the burqa, nobody can judge you. You are all equal. No one can judge you on the hair you have, the clothes you wear. Nobody is superior to another person, no matter how much money or anything that they have. You are a Muslim sister, and that is all that matters. The wonderful thing about Islam is the equality. So it's not purely for the ladies or the rules. Men are a lot more attracted to ladies on appearance than ladies are to men. And so my husband, he covers what he has to cover. He covers his body. It boggles me why people think that we're oppressed because we choose to do this, when, you know, they have certain ways in society that they have to live by, They feel that they have to dress a certain way and that they have to conform to fashion and society. So if they think we're oppressed, they're just as oppressed as they think we are.
Shanaz fully expected some hostility to her veil, but has been shocked that some of the fiercest criticism has come from other Muslims.
Even my husband's sister says to me, you don't need to go down that road, you're getting too extreme. You've got no right to wear that. I've had that said to me before by another person who claims to be a Muslim. I think it's because they know they're supposed to be wearing it and they're not, and all of a sudden there's an English girl wearing it, and it's making them feel, oh, you know, who's she to wear it? You know, it kind of puts their nose out of joint.
I know how to do this part now.
Shanaz insists on her right to wear and believe what she chooses. But as a parent, how much freedom is she willing to allow her own children?
I know how to put this on.
I'd never dream of forcing them to wear the scarf because Islam is, you know, against that. And they wouldn't be wearing it for the right reasons if it was purely because their mother told them to. But if I'm able to teach them properly, then they'll know that that is what they should be doing and they'll want to do it themselves.
She's all around it.
You like wearing your scarf, Alicia?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I look like a Muslim girl.
You look like a Muslim girl?
Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah. And sometimes I play with your action man because I want to be a boy.
It's a misconception. Islam is about that freedom. You're not forced to do anything. I'm not going to tell them that it's right what they're doing if they choose to follow another religion, because I believe that my religion is right. It might upset me, but I will always be there for them. I will always support them.
Shanaz's children will all be educated at an Islamic school, and at the first opportunity, the family hopes to emigrate to a Muslim country. To Shanaz, these are positive steps, but to non-Muslim family members, that level of total immersion can cause worry or hurt. Take John Standing. He now has a new name, Jamaluddin, but to his family he'll always be just John. They can't understand why, in converting, John feels he has to give up so much of what mattered to him in his old life. But he prefers to focus on the profit, not the loss.
I didn't want to be a Muslim, it came to me. And I'm so glad it did. It's the greatest gift anybody's ever given me. It was a strange way of converting, really. I mean, I met my wife, Nasira. I didn't like the idea of her being a Muslim. All I knew about Islam was that it was a religion that was spread by the sword. That it was a religion created by man for man. That it treated women like second-class citizens. So I had all these misconceptions about Islam.
When John first started going out with Nasira, he was very much in love with her. Well, they was with each other. I didn't think for a minute it would lead to him converting.
I'd lived a life where I didn't believe in Allah, didn't believe in God, I didn't believe in a spirit. I was convinced, as I was brought up, that there is nothing after this life. Once you die, that is it. I tried to steer away from her, but she was very firm in her beliefs. And I felt that I had to understand why. And once I started to understand more about the religion, I started to read the Quran. And when it was reading the Quran, which would change my life more than anything.
It's not something I would have encouraged him to do, but it's something he wants to do. And if this is giving him peace, then let him do it. I am concerned that anyone that turns to a religion so quickly and pursues it as vigorously as he has are brainwashed. This is my opinion. I think they get brainwashed in a way.
My father, all he knows about Islam is what he reads in the media. Pick up a newspaper, you don't hear a good story about a Muslim, you know, a Muslim's done this wonderful thing, or Muslims given to charity, or all you hear is this person strapped a load of Semtex to their body and blown themselves up. It's like saying that every single Irish person was in the IRA. It's not like that at all.
My son knows that should he be a part of harming anybody, I would disown him. And so would the rest of the family. They disown him completely. But I don't think there's a chance on this earth that my son could do anything like that. In fact, I'd stake my life on it.
Allahu Akbar.
Before his conversion, John dreamed of being a rock star, but not now.
Inland Revenue, John speaking, how may I help? Okay.
Despite studying music for 3 years, he got rid of all his instruments and recording equipment in case his music was out of tune with his religion.
I loved writing music. I'll not deny that. But it's a big argument within Islam about whether music using stringed instruments is halal or haram, allowed or forbidden. So some people say it's haram. Some people it's definitely, it's all right, you can do it. So within Islam, if it's doubtful, you avoid it.
I can't come to terms with the fact that somebody would spend 3 years devoting himself to music and all of a sudden that's gone by the wayside. And I think that's a total waste. I really do feel that it's stupid to pack it in. This is how strong he thinks about his religion. If his religion says that's what he has to do, then John will do it. Now I think you turned out some good stuff. You tell me why, because of this religion, you've changed from your music. You now dress like this, which I can't understand, for the simple reason I know that your brother-in-law goes to the mosque in jeans and whatever.
But that's his choice, my choice.
But you've chosen to go the whole hog.
Because that is my choice to do so. I don't feel ashamed of myself walking down the street.
I'm not saying you should feel ashamed. I'm just saying it's not the sort of thing that I would have expected you to wear.
I probably never expected it to wear. I never expected myself to be a Muslim.
Do you feel comfortable like this?
I feel more than comfortable. I feel more than relaxed.
Really?
It gives me a confidence, which I don't expect you to understand because you don't understand Islam, Dad.
What I can't understand is the changes in you.
But you don't think that they're positive changes, though?
Oh, I think they're very good. What I don't like is hearing you talking about you'd like to go and live abroad.
If I choose to go and live in a Muslim country where there is other Muslims, where I can bring up my child as a Muslim,
John,
away from the drink and the alcohol and the illicit sex. We've talked about this many
John,
times.
By the time your child grows up, it will be a Muslim country.
Well, we don't know that, do we?
All I'm saying is, be like you've always been, be a good son, obey the laws of the land, and look after your family.
Well,
and that's all I ask you to do.
But that's what Islam teaches me to do anyway, Dad.
Well, I
and
hope
that's what you've taught me to do.
Well, I hope you don't go to live abroad. I hope you stay in this country and where I can keep my eye on you.
Well, I hope you come and live abroad and I can keep my eye on you.
Well, we'll agree to disagree, son.
John hasn't found it possible to be both a good Muslim and a musician. But how much does Islam really demand that converts give up?
You know him as Cassius Clay, but he wants to be known as Muhammad Ali.
41 years ago, when the heavyweight champion of the world announced that he'd become a Muslim, there were some critics who wanted to strip him of his title. But did anyone even ask whether a Muslim is allowed to box?
Some scholars say that you're not allowed to hit in the face of a Muslim or a non-Muslim because it's God's creation and man is created in the best of forms, so it's not really good to be going bashing people in the faces.
Akil Burton took up boxing 20 years ago at the age of 14 and for 7 years was a professional fighter. But that was before he converted to Islam. Back then, he was still known by the rather unlikely film star name he was given by his Jamaican Christian parents, Richard Burton.
We were sent to church on Sundays and we used to go there for Easter and Christmas and all the other special occasions. And I can remember not really feeling any sort of affiliation to it. We didn't feel that it was talking about us. And a lot of the time you go into churches and you'd see pictures of Jesus and Mary and all these disciples and everyone was white and you think, well, a bit of a swizz that. Some people say that the Bible condoned slavery. How can that be right? If God's going to send a religion, he's going to send something which is for everybody.
If Akil saw Christianity as a white man's religion, then Islam seemed no less exclusive. Growing up in Manchester, the only Muslims he knew were Asians.
If you was to ask me what a Muslim was, I wouldn't have a clue. I'd have said, oh, an Asian guy. It seemed more like a country rather than a way of life. And when another Jamaican brother embraced Islam, it was like, why? You know, you're not Asian. I was just intrigued. And like whenever I used to see him, we'd end up talking for like 2 hours. Every time I had a question for him, he had an answer. Whereas I suppose before in the Christian days, I'd sometimes ask questions and I wouldn't get an answer. So that interested me. And then through him, I began to read the Quran. The first thing that struck me is that it was very similar to the Bible. It talks about Moses, Abraham, Job. A lot of the verses in the Quran ask you to reflect on your own existence. Look at the tree, look at the birds, look at your own creation, how amazing your own body is. And that in itself is sufficient for you to say, well, I'm something special and something special has created me. The more I read it, the more clear it became that the Quran was the word of God, without doubt. And that this is what I had to follow. I knew that in my heart. So one day I just woke up and saying, oh, this is it. What happens if God stops calling me?
Akil converted 2 years ago, but he'd been thinking about it for at least 6 years before that. He knew Islam was going to demand a change in his whole lifestyle.
I was still fighting internally with myself to give up the things which I'd been used to. So giving up the going out, giving up the chasing the women, giving up the drinking, giving up the smoking, giving up the partying, giving up this what I'd call immoral lifestyle now. Okay, the women is probably the most difficult one. But when you convert to Islam, every sin that you've ever committed in life is forgiven. So do I want to start off by committing more sin? No. The view that people have of Muslims is the different dress and the different names and different this, different that. You don't have to make them changes. That's just me. It's a reminder for me to watch myself and to try and implement the good things in my life and to portray the true image of Islam.
Akil had quit professional fighting before his conversion, but continued to train and was on the verge of a comeback when the death of another young boxer made him think again.
I was very good friends with this guy who was in this gym, and he developed a brain tumour and over a year or so passed away, and I suppose that got me to think, well, about my own mortality, my own life. And in the Quran it tells you that you should reflect on death because it's going to happen to all of us, and when you reflect on death you're more likely to do better things in your life. We need more properties.
All right, well, I'll have a chat with our lettings department.
So instead of a comeback, Akil devotes his energies to helping young homeless people get off the ropes. But he still trains, and he finds the discipline of boxing goes hand in glove with his new religion.
In boxing, you've got to submit yourself to a way of life. You're not going out, you're not going party, you're not drinking, you're not smoking. You've got to put the right food in your body, and you've got to train yourself. So you've got to sort of lock yourself away from society to an extent and get yourself mentally and physically prepared. I suppose, for me, Islam is the same in that Islam, you do all the hard work, you do all the remember, you do all the learning, and you try and implement all these things into your life, which in the long run are going to benefit you.
There are many types of convert. Some can't wait to cast off all trace of their old selves. But there are also those who see Islam as an enrichment of their former life, not a rejection of it. At a time when many predict a clash of civilizations, converts who manage to reconcile Muslim beliefs with Western culture may yet prove to be a vital bridge between the two.
No, I don't think I've rejected my culture, I don't think I've rejected my society. I just rejected that which I don't think is beneficial to me.
It's still me under here. I'm still their daughter, I'm still their sister.
I still chill with the boys, still watch the football. It's just that I don't smoke now, I don't drink, and I don't go chasing women, and I try and spend more time in contemplation of my life, really.
The biggest challenge facing Muslims in Britain today is to get people like me, the way I was prior to September 11, to actually see the reality of Islam.